What's up, everybody, and welcome to the College Guy Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Weiss, and today is our NBA edition of the podcast. Now, we're going to try something a little different here. We're going to do a solo man podcast, which I know sounds a little rough because it's hard to do solo radio, solo podcast, stuff like that. Just one guy rambling and one endless opinion. But hey, I think we can get it done. I want to try to get my content out there, and I like listening to podcasts. I know other people do too. So we're gonna see how this goes. Also, we're moving to a audio only podcast, and we're going to put them on SoundCloud. And hopefully, I'll still try to get them up on YouTube just so they can be up there permanently. Because SoundCloud, you have to upload and delete, stuff like that. And so hopefully the SoundCloud method will work, and the audio only will be a better way for you all to listen. So, all right, let's get it going. Let's hop right into things for our NBA free agency pod. All right, so on this pod, we'll go over some winners, some losers, some bad contracts, some good contracts. But I mean, there's only one place to start here: Golden State Warriors, Kevin Durant. I mean, what can you say? The team was possibly the greatest team that we ever seen before. 73-9, two of the greatest shooters ever. Good bench, all that stuff, and then they add Kevin Durant of all people. I, for one, thought Kevin Durant was going to stay in Oklahoma City, keep going Russell Westbrook, and then Russell Westbrook would re-up with his contract next offseason. Or they would both sign 1+1s, and we go from there. But, I mean, I don't want to say it took me as a surprise that Durant went to Golden State, but, I mean, I really thought he would stay in Oklahoma City. Part of me, when I first heard the news, was like, I can't get mad at the man for wanting to. It's his free agency. He's allowed to do what he wants to do. I didn't get mad when LeBron went to Miami, and I figured I can't get mad at Durant. But you know that old saying when the parents would always be like, I'm not mad and disappointed? I kind of got what that saying means with this Durant thing. Because, like I said, I can't be mad at Durant. It's his free agency. He's allowed to do what he wants with his life. But still, man, like, the Warriors, I mean, they won the series, but they did not win that series. The Thunder had that series won. It was 3-1. They did not choke. Let's get that clear. They played as well as they did the first couple of games. Maybe not as well because they would have won the series, obviously. But they didn't choke the series away. They played fine. If Klay Thompson doesn't go insane in Game 6, this never happens, and the Warriors lose that series. The Thunder go on, and probably the Cavs probably would have beat the Thunder. But I mean, then Durant would have, for all intents and purposes, re-signed in Oklahoma City, because why would he leave for a team he just beat in the Western Conference Finals? But like, come on, Kevin. It's just there's no more contenders. There's only the two contenders in the whole NBA, and can we really say there's two whole contenders? I mean, the Cavs needed all the help they could have gotten last year to win the finals, and as good as LeBron is, I don't think he can slay the beast this time. I mean, you look at the West now. Tim Duncan's gone. The Spurs got weaker. We've been weaker without him, anyways. It seems. The Clippers don't really have a bench that can contend, although they did make it a little stronger this offseason. We'll get into that later. I mean, the Thunder are now shells themselves. They maybe win 45 games, but not a real contender. And so it's just like left with the Cavs Warriors finals, which is good for the finals, but as a season as a whole, I mean, we're not really sure because, like, why would you? I mean, most of us watch anyways because if you're listening to this, probably a hardcore sports fan, which means you love whatever the game is on. But for people who just want to see like the big games and matchups, at a certain point, like, why would you watch Christmas Day? Warriors Spurs when the Warriors is gonna light them up and win by like 25-30. I mean, from a basketball standpoint, though, it's gonna be really fun to watch. I mean, the Warriors were one of the funnest teams to watch these past 2 years. People have just really started to turn on them, but now there's gonna be even more fun to watch. I mean, Kevin Durant's a villain now. You have Draymond Green, who's already become a villain because he keeps taking shots at people's nuts and just throwing people on the ground. And then Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, their shooting ability. Harrison Barnes is gone now, but I'm a bigger Harrison Barnes fan than most people, but I mean, yeah, Kevin Durant. What's there to worry about? The rim protection may be a bit of an issue, but they got Zaza Pachulia on a 1-year MLE for 2.9 million. David West, not really a rim protector, but they a great big man off the bench for him at league minimum. Anderson Varejao came back for 980 for the league minimum at 980K. I mean, he may have lost in the finals if you consider it, but I mean, it's still a body they need. I mean, they got Damian Jones, Patrick McCaw. I mean, their bench is filling out pretty nicely. They brought back McAdoo. They signed Ian Clark. Sean Livingston has option picked up. So it looks like they'll be fine on the bench, and it's just a matter of time of when the finals show up. Can the Cavs find a way to beat them? Because I mean, they won't break the win record this year. They're not going to try. They already did last year, even though they won't be that pissed off. They'll win 60 games. They'll win 60, 65 games, somewhere around there. Be the 1 seed, then turn on the playoffs. So that's not really the issue there. People are saying there's only one ball. How are they all gonna share it? These guys don't have to be ball dominant. We've seen it with Clay. We've seen it with Steph. There's like the only ball dominant guy on that team really is Sean Livingston, and he's in the second unit, so he's not really an issue when it comes to the other guys on the court. Everyone else is there can just spot up and hit a shot. I mean, they just throw stuff at the rim and it goes in. It's ridiculous. It can't. You watch the playoffs last year and the Thunder and the Cavs and the Blazers run all these sets and they would work but they miss a shot, and then the Warriors just come down there and throw a shot up and it goes in. It just defies all basketball logic we've ever known. But I mean, it works, so why not? I mean, those guys have proved they can just throw up a shot and it works. I've never seen Steph Curry, a guy, throw up so many bad shots where I'm just like, any other player in my shot, I'm like, oh, that's a bad shot. And I'm like, oh, it's a decent shot. It's probably going to go in. I mean, this signing won't even hinder their defense, let alone their offense, because what you saw from Kevin Durant last year in the playoffs, he was locking down people. So, you lost versus Ezeli, but Ezeli was giving up 60% from inside 6 feet or more. I mean, they might let him go without signing Durant. So, I mean, the Warriors don't. There's no way to get weaker without Kevin Durant. You just get stronger. I mean, the Sixers would have signed Kevin Durant, and they would have been the top 4 seed in the East. This is how it works when a player is that good. So, I mean, from a contract standpoint, the cap, a big part of what we expected the cap next year was going to be 113 million. It's actually going to be 102 million, or that's what's projected right now. It could go up again. But even then, right now the Warriors would still be able to sign Durant again next offseason because he signed a 1+1 for $26.5 million this year, and then it'd be $27.8 million next season. And they have a lot of free agents coming up next summer. Curry's free agent, and so is Durant. Curry is not going to take less. They have full bird rights on him, and after proving himself with the ankle deal when he was only making $12 million, he's going to get his $30 million per year next season. Durant, they will need to sign with just cap space. They will not have his bird rights because it's a 1+1, but that will simply be a problem. They won't have to shed any contracts, I believe, to make sure they can sign Kevin Durant again. And I'm assuming at that point he'll sign his 5-year deal to stay with the Warriors. So that signing makes it tough, but there's injuries and everything that happen, but the Warriors are winning the West and probably the finals. People, we got to get over that. But as we saw this year, everyone thought when they won 73-9 that was going to happen. So we play the game for a reason. All right, well, let's move on to the winners and losers of free agency or the offseason as a whole. The list is I like to touch on every team as I can as possible because I know some people don't like hearing about the Lakers and the Bulls and all the big market teams all the time. I like to touch on small market teams like the Timberwolves and the Pacers and stuff like that. So I'm just going over quick winners and losers and talk about some of the teams. Some of the winners, as I mentioned before, the Warriors, they're obviously the big winner. And then some other ones I have, the Suns, the Grizzlies, the Jazz, the Celtics. Some losers, the Thunder, obviously, by default. The Heat, the Bulls, the Spurs, Magic, the Hawks. And one unpopular opinion that I have is losers, the Pacers. I'll try to touch on each of those teams really quick. I'll start with the winners. As some of you may know, I am a very huge, livid, whatever, humongous, I don't know what adjective you want to use, as big as, maybe not word to describe it, an avid Phoenix Suns fan, and it's maybe coming from a bit of bias area, but I think the Suns are big winners this offseason with what they did in the draft and free agency. They had, I think, one of the best drafts of all the teams. I mean, I love what they did. They got Dragon Bender, who I've been saying since before last NBA season started was the guy I wanted. If when the Suns got a high pick, I mean, you can go back on the website, and I wrote about it in an article about why I didn't want Ben Simmons. But Bender was my guy that I want all the time. I think he's got great upside. He's a 3-4 combo with what we saw in summer league. Who can dribble the ball, who can handle the ball well. He's got his shooting motion's not broken. He's got good mechanics, but he drifts a little to the left sometimes. But I mean, he's very active. They got Marquise Chris at number 8 after they traded 13 for 8, and they I mean, they went back to the well like every other team does, and they fleeced the Kings. More picks they sent pretty much 2 second-round picks and Bogdan Bogdanovic, who I really like actually, but he wasn't coming over this year, so there was no point in trying to keep him when he's off the rookie scale. And they got Marquise Chris at number 8, who is the highest ceiling, lowest floor in this entire draft. But what you saw with him in summer league, he's active, which he was. He was very high energy, which he was not when you watched him in Washington. He's got a long shot release, but he rebounded much better. Granted, summer league, they're not NBA players, or most of them aren't. But he rebounded well. He was very active on the boards. He was jumping all around everywhere. A little bit better touch around the basket, I like, but I really like what I see so far. They got Tyler Lewis in the second round, which is an absolute steal. He may have been my MVP for summer league. The kid just plays. I call him a kid. He's the same age as me. He's amazing. He's really good defender for his size. He's got his mid-range jump shot down. He could be a future third guard in the NBA for 10 years and longer. They signed Jared Dudley, 3 years, $30 million. Jared Dudley, it's his second stint with the Suns. Fun fact, only player ever to have 100% of his threes assisted on last year. Not one was unassisted. But knockdown shooter, shoots 40% for three-point line, something the Suns needed ever since Channing Frye left, and he'll play the 3 and the 4. They got it's a good deal, 3 years, $30 million. Not going to break the bank. We would figure Dudley would have got maybe around $15 million this offseason. They brought back Leandro Barbosa, 2 years, $8 million. People thought they'd bring back Ronnie Price, but with Leandro Barbosa back, it gives them maybe their third guard off the bench. Maybe he doesn't run point. We'll have to see. I'm assuming Ulis will start off in their new D-League team, the Northern Arizona Suns. But all in all, I like what the Suns did this offseason. I'm a very optimistic person in the offseason, not during the regular season. So right now, I think the Suns can compete for that 7-8 spot. But, I mean, the future's looking bright regardless. One of my other winners was the Grizzlies, and I know a lot of people didn't like the money the Grizzlies handed out this offseason, but it's something they really needed to do. They needed to retain Mike Conley. If they didn't get Conley back, I don't think they can contend at all for a playoff spot next year. And for the longest time, it's just been Conley and Gasol because Zebo's not the player he used to be. They needed a wing to help them. I mean, you can say they overpaid for Chandler Parsons, but if Parsons is healthy, he does everything they need. He would become the best shooter on the team. He's a good defender on the wing. He's athletic. He can create a shot. It's something I really like. Actually, one move I would have liked to see them make was maybe bring back Lance to see if he can play off the bench for their main ball handler off the bench. But right now, I like the Grizzlies starting 5, and they're definitely, I think, the 4th or 5th best team in the West now. Another team I love what they did offseason was the Utah Jazz. I think the Jazz became the 4th best team in the West this season, and are the only ones who can maybe really make a run at the Warriors. Not that I think the Jazz are title contenders. I just think they can create matchup nightmares for the Warriors and how long and young and athletic they are. They added Joe Johnson for some bench scoring, which they desperately needed. This team struggled mightily to score. Johnson's professional scorer. That's what he's done his whole career in the league. They added George Hill, who I haven't maybe not necessarily the hugest fan of George Hill, but the dude can defend, which is what fits the Jazz MO, and he's become a pretty good 3-point shooter, and it gives him a point guard who's feasible as an NBA caliber point guard. Because I mean, I was a huge Trey Burke fan in Michigan, but he's just not a good NBA player. Shelvin Mack, I don't dislike as a guard, but if you're starting a point guard, he's not good for you. And now Exum's back. Now he doesn't have as much pressure to him to be the savior of the Jazz. He can come off the bench and work his way into the league a little more, and hopefully then take the reins from George Hill in the future. Uh, Another team you have to really like what they did was the Boston Celtics. They have all these young players, but which kind of a problem with Danny Ainge, because he keeps sitting on his assets, thinking they're gonna get better and better and better. But like, no one wants to trade for James Young anymore. Why would you? There's At one point you have to trade. I think the Celtics have to this offseason try to get Jimmy Butler again. Try to get at least Julio Okafor, or try to trade for Russell Westbrook, because they have all these assets, and at a certain point, no one's going to want them anymore, or you're not going to have the cap room eventually to get that big star. But even that being said, they still have cap room for another star now, and they got Al Horford, who I thought was not. I don't know, because they're not going to the Celtics, not leaving Atlanta, but I didn't think I thought the Celtics would strike out again, to be honest. But that Horford signing's nice. He can play the 4 spot, which is what his natural spot is there, depending with certain centers. So you can plug Amir Johnson at the 5, or maybe play him with Olynyk at the 5. Zeller's a restricted free agent. You don't know what's happening with him, but maybe Horford can now finally play the spot he's needed to play ever since his days with Florida, he was with Joakim Noah. We're gonna move on to some losers now. By default, you gotta consider the Thunder's a loser. They lost their franchise player, their best player since Gary Payton was with the Sonics. Now the future of Russell Westbrook looks like it's rough. I would say you trade him, because you can't let him walk. You can't have 2 top 5, top 10 players in the NBA walk back-to-back off seasons for not get anything in return. Maybe look at the Celtics and try to get Jaylen Brown and the next pick next year and some other pieces in that trade. But yeah, man, it's tough. They traded for Oladipo and got rid of Ibaka, which is maybe a good move. Ibaka is starting to look like he's being on the decline, especially with how great Steven Adams was in the playoffs. Cantor, you may look to trade him now, although who wants to trade for a big man with that salary who can't defend and can only score in the post? You have some other Sabonis and Oladipo are nice additions, but I mean, just the glaring spot, Durant, they just rescinded Dion Waiters' qualifying offer, so let's still have his bird rights, but they can't match any offer he gets, and you would think the Nets or the Sixers would put something on the table for him. Sorry for the starter there. The Thunder will still be a good team. They have Russell, as long as they keep Russell Westbrook. I mean, the man's a freaking monster, but as far as title contender goes, or maybe even second round of playoffs, it's not happening. Another team that's losers are the Miami Heat. Now, I mean, last year I thought Dwayne Wade was washed. I didn't think he was that good of an NBA player anymore. When I learned last offseason he was looking for a multi-year contract of $20 million, I thought he was insane. I wouldn't have gone anywhere over like $12 or $14 million if he wanted a multi-year contract. But I thought the 1 year $20 million was decent. And then this offseason, kind of the same thing happened, except when the season winded down in the playoffs, Dwayne Wade kind of turned back the clock and looked pretty good. But I mean, you look at the Heat now, and it's a weirdly constructed team, especially if Chris Bosh can't play. All the Heat have said that they think Bosh is going to play, and he intends to play. But I mean, let's look at the team right now. If Bosh doesn't play, Derek Williams is their starting 4. I mean, Williams was pretty good last year, and I gotta stop saying I mean, guys. Holy crap. But Bosh is needed for that team, because Derek Williams as a 4 is not a playoff team, especially when you have Justice Winslow as your 3, and there's no shooting on the team. There's none. I mean, Goran Dragic, who was a really good shooter in Phoenix, all of a sudden has become a very streaky, at best, shooter in Miami, he's not a reliable 3-point shooter anymore that he was in Phoenix. Bosh is your best shooter on the team, but he's not sure if he's playing. Whiteside, I have a feeling, is going to not give a crap anymore and just he's got his money. He's done. He's just gonna get whatever he wants because he's got his motor's gone because he's got paid. There's a story when he got his $600,000 contract with the Kings. I think it was that much. He bought of like a $400,000 car. Like, come on, dude. But Whiteside's a good player. Just I think he's going to become overweight and just not try as hard anymore. They matched Tyler Johnson offer. Johnson's a good 3-and-D guard, I guess if you want to call him that. Josh Richardson looked pretty good last season. I'm not a huge fan of his, but he's got some athletic qualities and he's a bouncy defender. Winslow, I like, not as many as some other people. I don't think he's the next Kawhi Leonard like some Miami fans think he is. But, they're fans, so they're going to keep saying that. I'm sure a lot of people think I'm ridiculously high on Bender and Chris for no reason. But yeah, the way the Heat are constructed now, it may not even be a playoff team. A team directly related to the Heat I have are the Bulls. The Bulls I have a loser because no spacing, Dwayne Wade, Rajon Rondo, Jimmy Butler, going to be a total train wreck. The Spurs are a loser because the Spurs lost Tim Duncan, who is my reaction when Tim Duncan retired was be gone, Satan. No player in any sport has caused me more hemorrhages and strokes and heart attacks or whatever. I hate Tim Duncan. That's both things at the end of that. Another loser, Rob Hennigan, Leon the Magic. I have no clue what that team is doing, handing out weird contracts. DJ Augustine, Jeff Green, Biyombo. Some of those are good players, but what they're doing is just beyond me. I don't even know if Rob Hennigan knows what he's doing. He's just trying to make the playoffs and save his job, I guess. The Hawks is switching Al Horford for Dwight Howard. I'm not as big as Dwight hater as some people are, but that's clearly a downgrade. Another team I didn't like that some people did are the Pacers. I'm worried about the Pacers defense. Thaddeus Young, Al Jefferson, hiring Nate McMillan. Larry Bird said he wanted to go faster. That's kind of why he got rid of Frank Vogel, as well as he's a strong believer, and you can only hear one voice for so long. But you want to go faster, and you bring in Nate McMillan. And I understand Al Jefferson's going to be coming off the bench for the second unit, but Al Jefferson's maybe the slowest center in the league behind Robin Lopez. He is the slowest center in the league, and he's not nearly the guy he was 2 years ago against Miami in the playoffs. But so they lost George Hill, brought in Jeff Teague, because it's like I don't know. They're certainly going towards the way the NBA is now, going faster, more pace, more shooting. But you still have to play defense to win in this league. I know I said I was gonna try to speed over those teams, and I gave the winners a little more love than the losers. So if that was one of your favorite teams, sorry I skipped over them, but just to didn't want to make this podcast like 2 hours long, so sorry about that, because I know what it feels like to have no one talk about your team, and even though you think they deserve to get talked about. So sorry about that. All right, let's move on to some good contracts and some bad contracts, and I guess we'll go a little bit back and forth on this because we'll try to change it up from let's be really good and just for lack of a better term, shit on everyone else's bad contract. But let's start with off the bad ones, even though I just said let's not go do that. But one of the worst contracts is one of the quickest contracts signed. Actually, I think it was the first contract signed was Timothy Mozgov and the Los Angeles Lakers. 4 years, $64 million. There's no 4.5 raises every year after this contract, but still, Mozgov is coming off a knee surgery, which he had a botched rehab, which could be the reason why he didn't play so well last year, and he could get back to his playoff form with the Cavs and his later appearances with the Nuggets. But look right now what the other centers got. Is you could sign Ian Mahimi to the same deal pretty much. You could have got Bismack Biyombo, and both of those guys are probably better players, or definitely better players than Mozgov. So that contract is a little head scratching there. Another head scratching contract from the Lakers is Luol Deng, 4 years, $72 million. Before I get into that contract, most of my bad contracts this offseason are for years, not dollars. Because, the money was going up. I knew everyone who followed the NBA knew the money was going up and expected this. So it's not like we thought these guys are getting overpaid. This is what the market calls for. But the years, if it's too long of a contract, I think it's too much. Like DJ Augustine only got 4 years, 29 million. 29 million is not a big price, but for 4 years, I mean, I'm a pretty big DJ Augustine fan, or most people. I think he's a good guard off the bench who can shoot, but 4 years is way too long for DJ Augustine. I'd go 2 years max at that one. Uh, but just like everyone thought the money was too big for Allen Crabbe. The Allen Crabbe contract is not a bad contract. Anyone who follows NBA free agency knows how it works. He's a restricted free agent. The cap just jumped up $20 million or so. Plus, the NBA free agency, you're going against other people's market value. So you have to overpay to get players. That's how it works in any free agency, not NBA, NFL, NHL. That's how free agency works. Is you have to overpay to get players. And on top of that, he's a restricted free agent, so you have to put even more money in him, hoping that the other team won't match. So that's how restricted free agency works. It's how free agency works. Anyone who thought that was a bad contract was just not paying attention. So, but again, why I don't like the Luol Deng going back to Deng, I don't like his because of the years, not because of the money, because of the years. He's a good mentor for the team, I think, to help Brandon Ingram along. But I mean, 4 years, Luol Deng is. I mean, he revitalized himself a little bit in the playoffs with playing the 4. But I mean, 4 years still is a lot for Luol Deng. Good contract. Nicholas Batum, 5 years, 120 million. He left about 20 million or 13 million, somewhere around there. I know, pretty big distance, but in between 13 and 20 million. I can't remember off the top of my head, on the table. And it really helps the Hornets. He was one of the major reasons why the Hornets went on that tear near the end of the year. This season, we'll have to see how the dynamic works with Kid Gilchrist back. I assume Batum plays the 2 when they're both on the floor together, because you would think that they're going to play a lot of minutes together on the floor, and you'll have MKG at the 3 and Batum at the 2. But I think it works. I've been a pretty big Batum fan for a little while, and I think he's part of the reason why they made a playoff run and probably should have made the second round last year. Let's go back to bad contracts. Solomon Hill, New Orleans Pelicans, 4 years, 48 million. The Pelicans needed some bench help. They had pretty much a lot of scrubs on the bench last year. No NBA players to help Anthony Davis at all, with all the injuries. But Solomon Hill at 4 years, 48 million. I mean, this is one of the ones where the money is too big. I mean, granted, 12 million is not that bad this year, but I mean, raise your hand if you knew who Solomon Hill was before and you knew he went to Arizona. Like, the kid he's a pretty good shooter. I keep saying kid. All these guys are older than me. Don't know why I'm doing that. But yeah, he's a decent shooter, but 8 million I think would have done it. I mean, I don't know what his other contracts on the table were, but 4 years, 36 million, something like that. That's what I would have rather gone with. But I mean, I could eat my words. He could turn into their 6th man of the year or something like that. Good contract. The best contract I think of anyone handled this offseason. Brandon Jennings, 1 year, $5 million. That blows my mind. Matthew Dellavedova got 4 years, $38 million, and Brandon Jennings is sitting here, 1 year, $5 million. I thought Jennings made not a long-term deal, but I thought you could mark down Jennings for a double 8-digit salary. But I mean, 1 year, $5 million. That's for the Knicks, who are probably gonna need backup point guard help with Derrick Rose's injury. Not to say Brandon Jennings isn't injury prone, but I mean, Jennings coming off the bench for 1 year, $5 million is insanely good. Look at the Pistons play last year after they Jennings. They went down. They needed their backup point guard off the bench. That's why they gave Ish Smith 3 years, $18 million. But I mean, 1 year, $5 million for Jennings still blows my mind. If I was an NBA GM or I was controlling all 30 teams, so like 2K, I control all 30 teams. If I was the Sixers, I would have gave him like 1 year. I would give him a 1+1, maybe overpay him I make the second year a team option. Give him like I don't know, give him 16 million. So 2 years, 32, 1+1. So if he plays well, then I can just opt him into the next year, and we can have another solid point guard that can play. I think Brandon Jennings would be able to play. I mean, he's ball dominant, but he's a decent enough 3-point shooter where he could have played with Ben Simmons. When you overpay him, he will accept the team option because a player option, they're most likely, if they play well, they're going to opt out of it so they can make more money up the market next year. This way, you would have had them for the second year as well. But I mean, 1 year, $5 million. Good. That's good job by the Knicks, considering some of their other moves were not as highly liked as others. Let's finish out the bad contracts here. Jamal Crawford, 3 years, $42 million with the Clippers. Again, not a money deal, years deal. Jamal Crawford's 36 right now. He's going to be 39 at the end of this contract. I mean, shooting really never goes away, but will he be able to get by people and get to the rim anymore? Not that he does too much now, but he can still cross someone up and attack. I doubt he will be able to this year. One that floored me, Miles Plumlee, 4 years, $52 million. Miles Plumlee used to be my boy when the Suns, the 13-14 Suns, when they won 48 games. He started out season pretty well, averaging nearly double-double a game. But, I mean, his limitations were clear. He's just 4 years, $52 million is a lot for Miles Plumlee. I would like to see what other teams were trying to get him for, apparently. The worst two contracts, I think, this offseason, Evan Turner, originally was reported for 4 years, $75 million, excuse me. Now it turns to 4 years, $70 million. The fact that Evan Turner is getting paid that much is ridiculous. I mean, it's Evan Turner. If you watched him, he's not bad, but he's not good. Evan Turner is like the epitome of mediocre. It's very confusing. I don't know why you would want to sign, especially when Evan Turner's not had the ball in his hands. He's awful. That's just the simple of it. He's awful without the ball in his hands. And you have your best two players are ball dominant guards in Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. So you add another ball dominant wing in with Evan Turner, a guy notorious for not really shooting and all that other type of stuff. So that's definitely a head scratcher. And then probably for most, this is the consensus worst contract of the offseason. Ryan Anderson, 4 years, $80 million from the Rockets. The Rockets were just looking to hand out money, I guess, trying to make a better team by making it a worse team. I don't know. It's really weird. Ryan Anderson his back has been killing him the past couple of years. That's why his play has declined. I mean, I feel sorry for the guy because back problems they're a bitch. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Back problems suck. It's part of the reason why he's been bad. But 4 years, $80 million. Guy can't defend. His shooting has not been that well. Just back problems hinder a lot of careers. 4 years, $80 million. Maybe Daryl Morey's worried about his job security. I don't know. It's just not a good move. And a good contract. The last one I would say is Mirza Teletovic, 3 years, $30 million from the Bucks. Something the Bucks really needed was shooting. He automatically becomes the Bucks' best shooter. The guy has no conscience when it comes to shooting. Catch, shoot, catch, shoot, catch, shoot. There's no passing. There's no passing button on his controller. He set the NBA record for most threes off a bench last season. Fun fact. He was pretty good with the Suns last season. He came out. He had that injury, heart condition, I think it was, with the Nets. So he kind of came back slow. But once he got into the rhythm, he became a really reliable shooter. Had a game winner against the Bulls, a little fadeaway like 7-footer. But Mizier's proved that when he's healthy, he can still be a very good three-point shooter, which is something the Bucks desperately needed with all that length and defense and no shooting. Mirza can't defend with a lick, but he's definitely what they needed when it comes to shooting because Greg Monroe and John Henson and all those other guys clogging the paint are not good for the team. So that's just a quick NBA free agency review. I would like to get in deeper, but again, don't want to make this like a 3-hour long podcast. If you want one of those, check out the Dunked On podcast with Nate Duggan. That's not throwing shade at him. I really like that podcast. But yeah, that's our College Guys Sports NBA free agency review. Again, just Warriors, man. Kevin Durant. I mean, that's the big theme this offseason. And now it's pretty much a 2-team league. But again, like I said earlier, that's why we play the game. We gotta see how it turn out this year. So I'm your host, Ryan Weiss. This has been the College Guys Sports Podcast. Make sure to like us on all our social media and follow us and all that good jazz. Review us if you want. I'm open to it. I'm hoping that we can keep these solo man podcasts keep going. So hit us up on Twitter or something on Facebook telling us if you liked the one-man podcast, and we'll see if we can keep going. So again, I'm Ryan Weiss. It's College Guys Sports Podcast, NBA edition. Hope you liked it. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. We'll see if we can keep going. All right. So again, my name is Ryan Weiss. This is College Guys Sports Podcast. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.